Hello and welcome back to the second episode of the Bathurst Elwell Sports Show. I'm your host Henry Elwell alongside my co-host,
Lewis Bathurst.
and in this episode we're going to be talking about all the week's sports news. Now, obviously the big one over in America being the Super Bowl, which saw the Philadelphia Eagles absolutely annihilate Mahomes with his Kansas City Chiefs 40-22. I mean, Mahomes couldn't get anything going, could he really?
No, I mean when you consider the fact that this was a team going for a three-peat, first in history, and that's the second time that an Eagles franchise has stopped that. They did it with the Patriots back a few years ago, and they've now stopped the Chiefs. I mean, in the first half, there was absolutely nothing coming in any way from the Chiefs at all from any of the players.
No, my, it looked like an onslaught really from Philadelphia. I mean, it all began with the tush push from Jalen Hurts, the quarterback for the Eagles. I mean, it just didn't look at all like the Chiefs. I mean, they haven't been great. I mean, they're at the Super Bowl, but you would argue it's one of their weaker seasons. I mean, obviously you don't really want to speculate on this, but the refs been quite kind to them all season.
I mean, I think that just speaks for the Chiefs, though, that one of their worst seasons and the record was still 15-2.
Yeah, oh yeah, 100%. Yeah.
Um, but the offensive line for the Chiefs on Sunday night, it absolutely could not stop the rush of the defense, and even once you got past the offensive line, when Mahomes was singing throws, they were behind Travis Kelce. They were intercepted by Cooper DeJean, who took it back for a pick six at one point on his birthday, which I thought was a nice touch to the Super Bowl.
That's quite nice, isn't it? I mean, imagine on your birthday as a defensive player as well. I mean, that's no easy feat. And the two interceptions for Mahomes as well. I mean, Mahomes isn't an interception quarterback. He's not someone that lets the ball off lightly.
No, no, he's a quarterback that definitely protects the ball, and with a fumble as well in the second half that was recovered by the Eagles, he just wasn't at the races today, and you can't really fault the guy. He's been impeccable every playoff run he's ever had.
And obviously, as per tradition in the NFL, it's more of an American thing than a British thing. But they had a halftime performance from rapper Kendrick Lamar. I saw discourse online. I'd like to hear your opinion, Lewis. I saw discourse online about whether it was good or bad. Now, in my opinion, I think it was quite a weak performance. I mean, when you're playing songs from your latest album that are more like TikTok songs,
Yeah.
like, because like Peekaboo, for instance, it's not a hitter that Kendrick Lamar has. He has a lot more in the chamber than Peekaboo. So like it baffled me a bit, really.
I mean, you don't want the halftime show of the Super Bowl to take away from the action, but I think that halftime show from Kendrick Lamar did that in possibly all the wrong ways, because obviously you've got the incident with Drake and the pettiness of bringing Serena Williams onto the side of the stage to start crip
I
walking.
didn't think it was Serena.
We were
We were
talking about
watching
it.
about we were watching it together, and I went, that can't be Serena Williams, but I mean it was. Uh, but I don't know. I just didn't think it was a great performance. When half of the lyrics that you rap in your songs are swear words and you can't do them,
Yeah,
and you're there mumbling half the time anyway.
it does limit
It
you.
yeah, it wasn't the greatest, to be honest.
The Super Bowl MVP as well, that was Jalen Hurts, the quarterback of the Philadelphia Eagles. But realistically, I think you could have given it to anybody on the Eagles, especially the defensive side. Cooper DeJean,
Yeah, honestly,
Jalen Carter, they were all brilliant.
honestly, he could have given it to Cooper DeJean. I mean, I wouldn't have been angry with that.
No,
I think he had an excellent game.
he- he's had an excellent season.
Excellent season. I mean, obviously MVP in the Super Bowl doesn't work like that. You can't just have a good season and then win the trophy, but win that award. But he played excellent in defensively on Sunday.
Now we've moved on from the American sports, we can move over to football, where this weekend the league action took a step to the side as we welcome back the FA Cup. And it's not arguable. The biggest upset of this round was by far bottom of the league Plymouth, who are struggling in the Championship after a shocking start from Wayne Rooney in managerial. They've still not really turned things around since the new manager's come in, but they managed to beat Liverpool at home park, which was a historic win for the team at their home ground. The fans were in fine voice by full time. I think all the players played really well.
Obviously, Plymouth won via a penalty from Ryan Hardy. I mean, that's mental for Plymouth, really. I mean, they go through to the next round against Manchester City. I mean, and they've had some easy draws this season, haven't they? Really.
Yeah, I mean, when you consider some of the fixtures on the other Premier League sides have got in the 2 rounds since they've been in, now going into the third round, and Man City's draws have been Salford, Leyton Orient, and now Plymouth, arguably some of the easiest draws in the hat. You can't call it rigged because, of course, they can't
It,
rig it,
well, no, it's not rigged,
but it's very fortunate for Man City, and I think in many cup competitions in recent history, they've been just as fortunate on numerous occasions to get easy draws.
then they've not been so fortunate in the Champions League, really, have they? I mean,
No.
losing last night for us, Real Madrid beat them 3-2 in the Champions League playoff game. I
Yeah.
mean, and Bellingham obviously being the last goal scorer to change the tide for Man City going into a deficit in this second leg
I think the big point is that this leg was at the Etihad. I struggled to see Man City going to the Bernabeu.
and getting a result. Yeah,
Exactly.
I struggle seeing that myself.
A lot of people last night saw a Manchester City win. I think the bookies had them priced up with Real Madrid about 5-2, and I took that 5-2 because when you look at Man City's form recently, they went to the Parc des Princes a few weeks ago and lost 4-2. If Real Madrid went to the Parc des Princes, there'd be such short odds to win. You couldn't see Real Madrid going to the Parc des Princes and not winning the way PSG are at the minute, losing all the key players. And I think it's so obvious this season that Man City not been at the races when they've lost 5-1 to Arsenal last weekend, and then they've come just over a
Well,
week later.
it's like a shadow of themselves. I mean, Ortega doesn't help either.
No,
And you when you look at Edison and Ortega, I mean, do you really look at them as mainstays? I mean, surely if your City's bored, you're not happy keeping them on.
I mean, with Ortega, we saw against Arsenal last week. I don't know what he was playing at. He's very much not the answer. And a few years ago, Edison was probably the top 3 goalkeepers in the world. And I said back at the time I could confidently see him in any midfield in the Premier League because of how good he was on the ball. But his goalkeeping ability sometimes has got to be questioned. And when you've got a team like Man City and there's much better goalkeeper options out there now, Ortega's definitely not the answer as a replacement, but I don't think Ederson is a long-term goalkeeper anymore for Manchester City. He was an experienced player on the pitch last night, and when they needed an experienced player the most to just see a game out, he made some mistakes, especially for the last goal coming out really early, that probably cost Man City the game. And now they do have to try and go to the Bernabeu and get a result in order to advance, which
Which is it seems like an impossible task, really. I mean, that Real Madrid are so strong at home, and
yeah.
they I can't see them losing it. I mean, it can happen, but I would put heavy doubters on them losing it. Now, Exeter, in other news, Exeter did draw 2-2 against Nottingham Forest. However, Nottingham Forest did go on to win the game via penalties in the FA Cup. Obviously, they now progress through, and they play Ipswich at home. Now, it's wild that Exeter can have the ability to get a 2-2 draw with Nottingham Forest, considering how good Nottingham Forest have been.
They played the captain Ryan Yates, uh, Awanihi, who was prolific goal scorer last season, maybe not been in the same form this season,
Yeah,
but
definitely not the same player as last season, but
he can
still
still
a
score
strong
goals.
candidate for
Yeah.
scoring goals.
I mean, especially when you consider Exeter had a man sent off in the 87th minute, And obviously, with the new FA Cup rules, replays being scrapped, they had to play the extra time with 10 men against a strong enough Nottingham Forest side, and they took them to penalties and unfortunately lost it there. But I think when you look at the way Forest have been running through the Premier League this season and put themselves very much in European football contention, uh, Exeter have had a great night at home in front of their fans. It's a tough away trip for anybody to go down to Exeter. Yeah, it's rough, but they almost got a result there.
Well, moving on to the UFC now. I mean, Du Plessis, Dricus Du Plessis did retain against Strickland, who looked woeful. I mean, Sean Strickland has this thing where he likes to claim, oh, we're gonna go to war. I'm not gonna do the accent, I'm not gonna do the impression, but we're gonna go to war for you guys and whatever. And he keeps pulling out stinkers. I mean, well, stinkers is harsh, but he's quite conservative with the way he fights. He kind of stands on his jab, doesn't move, doesn't really do much. He's a tough nut. Like, he broke his nose in the fourth round, I want to say, and then put it back into like position. I mean, that is some tough man stuff. I mean, that's not everyone. You can't do that. I mean, I couldn't do that. Uh, Obviously, Du Plessis retained the belt. He's undeniable, really. I mean, anyone who says he's not a good fighter is lying to you. 9 out of 9 wins in the UFC, champion at middleweight. Yes, his fighting's awkward. He fights like an idiot. He kind of like someone at like a bar would fight, just kind of constant pressure, always looking tired, but somehow he's got absolute like when he's tired, he actually fights better. It's it's really weird to see, but it works so well. And again, he's undeniable. And if anyone claims that he's not a good fighter, they're just lying to you straight up. I don't want to see Strickland fight again in for the title or anywhere near the title picture. I don't think it's beneficial for anyone. I mean, his fights are relatively boring. Kind of just stands there and doesn't really do much. After claiming, he's going to go to war and everything like that. For 25-minute war and all of that. And obviously, in the co-main event, you had Zhang, who retained against Tatiana Suarez, who everyone had Suarez becoming the champion on the night, but Zhang showed that that Tatiana's wrestling just isn't a match for Zhang. The bookies must have been happy, making money off everyone, thinking that Suarez was going to win. I mean, she just didn't look like the same fighter she has been over numerous other fights. Plain and simple, really. Zhang looked very strong and over 5 rounds managed to get the win.
So on last week's show, we did a little segment about horse racing, and in the past week, there's been some more massive news stories in the world of horse racing. First of all, we recorded last week's podcast on the Wednesday, and on the Thursday, there was a meeting in Ireland at Thurles that got abandoned after race 2 because Michael O'Sullivan, one of the jockeys, took a heavy fall and is still in intensive care after it. It's all prayers and thoughts are with the family of Michael O'Sullivan, great jockey, Cheltenham Festival winning jockey, with the likes of Marine Nationale. But I just think it puts it into perspective when incidents like that happen in the world of horse racing. You never want to see a horse get injured. You never want to see anything like that. But when Wee Charlie, the horse, fell on Thursday, you could see instantly that Michael O'Sullivan was in big trouble, and he was airlifted to a local hospital. So obviously we hope he's all right. So that happened on Thursday, and then a statement was made by Nicky Henderson, top trainer, that Sergino, one of his stable stars, were going to miss the rest of the season. There was a previous statement in the week saying that the horse had suffered a minor wound on his near hind leg. But after a couple of days monitoring that injury and getting up to date with that injury, Nicky Henderson made it clear that that all wasn't well with the horse, and eventually into the statement that said the horse was going to miss the rest of the season due to an infected wound. So obviously the previous injury that was mentioned had become infected. And the rest of the news of the horse racing also comes with regards to Nicky Henderson, whose other horse owned by the Donnellys, same as Sergino. Lou Lambert was scratched from the Supreme in a month's time, the opener of the Cheltenham Festival, which almost all suggests that the horse will go for the Triumph instead, setting up a great race between the three main contenders in that context. Hello Neighbour, East India Doc, and of course Lou Lambert, all will be going for the Triumph. I think East India Doc, the second in with the bookies, has probably got the best form at the minute. But when you watch Lou Lambert's race from last month, you can't help but think that they'll improve leaps and bounds. Same with Hello Neighbour from his performance in the DRF. So that'll be an interesting race to watch on the final day of Cheltenham.
Thank you guys for listening to the second episode of Bathurst Elwell Sports Show. Hopefully you tune in next week where we'll be doing the exact same again. Goodbye.
Bye.